The Buddha teaches that life is impermanent, connections come and go, and no one but ourselves can truly be our firm foundation. Yet, as we grow older, have we truly understood this profound lesson? As the years fold into decades, life whispers a quiet truth that we often resist hearing. Everything is impermanent. The joys we cherish, the relationships we nurture, and even the strength of our bodies, all are fleeting. We cling to the illusion of permanence, seeking stability in an ever-changing world, and often, as we age, we anchor our hope to the next generation. But the Buddha reminds us, all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Strive on with diligence. There was once a mother, devoted and selfless, whose life revolved around her 3 children. She poured her energy into ensuring they had the best education, the best opportunities, and above all, a life free from the struggles she endured. When her husband passed away suddenly, her world narrowed even further. Her children became her sole reason for living, her hope for security in the autumn of her life. Years later, when she retired, she moved in with her eldest son. At first, the arrangement seemed perfect. Her grandchildren filled the house with laughter, and her son assured her she would never have to worry about anything. But over time, things began to shift. Her presence, once welcome, became a source of tension. She overheard whispers from her daughter-in-law about how her retirement money could help with household expenses. Slowly, she started feeling like an intruder in a home she thought was hers. This story mirrors countless lives. As we age, we often place our trust in the hands of our children, believing they will carry forward the care and love we once gave them. But relationships are dynamic, not static. Children grow, marry, and build lives of their own, often unaware of the silent sacrifices their parents made. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence serves as a wake-up call. Life is like a river, constantly flowing, never the same. Just as we cannot hold water in our hands, we cannot hold on to people, circumstances, or even the vitality we once had. This truth is not meant to cause despair, but to inspire self-reliance. The first step to embracing this reality is to understand that our inner strength is the most dependable source of security. It is not selfish to focus on self-reliance, it is wisdom. Just as a tree stands tall by sinking its roots deep into the earth, we too must ground ourselves in our abilities, resources, and inner peace. To rely on oneself does not mean shutting out others. Instead, it means cultivating a life where our well-being is not entirely dependent on external circumstances. When we understand impermanence, we free ourselves from the pain of unmet expectations. We realize that by standing on our own, we are not just surviving, we are thriving in harmony with life's flow. There is no greater burden than the weight of expectations. When we place our happiness in the hands of others, we hand over the key to our peace. Expectations often feel like an invisible contract we sign with the world around us. We give love and care, assuming it will be reciprocated. We sacrifice for our children, believing they will carry our burdens in return. Yet, when reality diverges from these assumptions, the resulting pain can be immense. The Buddha teaches, attachment leads to suffering. At its core, expectation is a form of attachment, a tether to an imagined future that may never come to pass. The story of the devoted mother takes a familiar turn. After moving out of her eldest son's house, she rotated between the homes of her other children. Her second son welcomed her at first, but soon began making excuses about how busy he was. Her daughter, kind-hearted but overwhelmed with her own responsibilities, promised she would take care of their mother when things settled down. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but the promises remained unfulfilled. Each experience left her heart heavier, until one day, sitting alone in her room, she realized a profound truth. I am chasing an illusion, expecting others to fill a void only I can address. Letting go of expectations does not mean giving up on love or connection. It means freeing ourselves from the chains of imagined outcomes. It is the realization that love given freely, without the weight of expectation, is love in its purest form. By releasing the need for others to act a certain way, we reclaim our peace. This process is neither easy nor instantaneous. It requires mindful effort and reflection. Begin by acknowledging the expectations you carry. Write them down, each hope, each assumption, each silent wish. Then, one by one, examine them under the light of impermanence. Ask yourself, is this expectation rooted in reality, Or is it a story I've created in my mind? When you recognize the transient nature of life, you will see that expectations are like sandcastles on the shore, beautiful but temporary. One practical way to practice letting go is through meditation. Close your eyes and visualize yourself holding a rope tied to a heavy rock. With each breath, imagine the rope loosening until the rock falls away. Feel the lightness in your heart. This simple exercise is a reminder that peace comes not from holding on but from letting go. The Buddhist teachings encourage us to cultivate equanimity, a state of mental calmness and balance, even in the face of life's ups and downs. When we release expectations, we find that we are no longer at the mercy of others' actions. We become the authors of our own happiness. By letting go, we also create space for gratitude. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we begin to see the abundance in our lives, the warmth of a morning sunbeam, the laughter of a grandchild, the quiet joy of a well-tended garden. These small moments, unnoticed in the shadow of expectation, become the foundation of a fulfilling life. In the end, letting go is not about losing, it is about gaining freedom. It is about walking lightly on the path of life, unburdened by the weight of should and could. As the mother in our story discovered, peace is not found in the fulfillment of expectations, but in the decision to release them. It is in this release that true happiness begins. To care for the body is not vanity, it is wisdom. The Buddha teaches that a healthy body is the foundation for a clear and peaceful mind. Without it, we cannot walk the path to inner peace. Aging is an inevitable process, yet how we age depends greatly on the care we extend to ourselves. Often, in the hustle of life, we prioritize others, our families, our responsibilities while neglecting our own well-being. By the time old age arrives, the effects of this neglect surface, making it clear that health is not just a luxury, but a necessity. Consider the story of a retired school teacher, Mrs. Lyon. She had spent decades teaching, rarely taking a day off, and her retirement years were meant to be a time of rest and reflection. But when her children asked her to help care for her grandchildren, she found herself saying yes. Soon, her days were filled with chasing after toddlers, cooking meals, and cleaning. The strain on her body was evident, her back ached constantly, and she rarely slept well. Yet, she pushed through, believing her sacrifices were an expression of love. It was only after a severe fall that Mrs. Lyon realized she had reached her limit. As she lay in a hospital bed, unable to move without assistance, she reflected on the Buddhist teaching. Your body is precious. It is your vehicle for awakening. Treat it with care. In that moment, she understood that caring for herself was not selfish. It was a responsibility. For older adults, protecting one's health is both a practical and spiritual endeavor. A healthy body supports a healthy mind, enabling clarity, mindfulness, and inner peace. While we cannot stop the natural aging process, we can choose how to respond to it. The first step is acknowledging that maintaining health is an act of self-respect. Simple steps to preserve health. 1. Mindful eating. The Buddha taught the importance of moderation and mindfulness, even in eating. Consuming nutritious, balanced meals is not just a physical act, but a way to honor the body. Avoid overindulgence or foods that drain energy. Instead, choose those that nourish and sustain. 2. Regular physical activity. Gentle exercises like walking or yoga help keep the body flexible and strong. Activities like Tai Chi or even mindful stretching can ease tension and improve circulation. These are not just movements, but meditations in motion. 3. Adequate rest. Just as a lamp needs oil to burn, our bodies need rest to function. Prioritize sleep and take breaks during the day to recharge. Allow your body the quiet it needs to heal and restore. 4. Mental health practices. Physical health is intertwined with mental health. Engage in activities that bring joy, reading, gardening, or spending time in nature. Practice mindfulness to release stress and stay present in the moment. The Buddha emphasized that the middle path of balance between excess and deprivation is the key to a harmonious life. Caring for one's health follows this principle. It is not about perfection but consistency. Each small effort repeated daily adds up to a life of strength and vitality. Ultimately, protecting our health is not just about prolonging life, but enhancing the quality of each moment we live. It is through a healthy body that we can walk the spiritual path with steadiness and grace, meeting each day with gratitude and clarity. Wealth, when used wisely, is a tool for liberation. When misused, it becomes a chain of suffering. In our later years, financial security is not merely about comfort, it is about dignity. Money, while material, plays a crucial role in ensuring independence and peace of mind. The Buddhist teachings on wealth emphasize moderation, generosity, and responsibility, urging us to see money not as an end in itself, but as a means to support a meaningful life. There is a cautionary tale of Mr. Han, a retired government worker who had worked tirelessly to save for his retirement. Believing in the virtue of family, he handed over his savings to his eldest son, trusting him to manage it wisely. At first, everything seemed fine. His son assured him the money would be invested in the family's future. But over time, Mr. Han noticed that requests for more money became frequent, and the promises of returns never materialized. One day, when he asked for a portion of his savings to cover medical expenses, his son hesitated, suggesting that the family was in financial difficulty. It was a painful moment of realization for Mr. Han. He had sacrificed his independence in the name of trust. This story is not uncommon. In many cultures, older adults are expected to entrust their assets to their children, often leaving themselves vulnerable. While family bonds are important, financial independence is equally vital. The Buddha taught, "The wise man guards his wealth as one guards a precious jewel." Steps to financial security. 1. Retain control of your assets. Avoid transferring ownership of properties or large sums of money prematurely. Instead, consider creating a will or trust to ensure your wishes are respected. 2. Plan for longevity. Recognize that life expectancy has increased and plan your finances accordingly. This includes budgeting for medical expenses, personal care, and unexpected emergencies. 3. Prioritize needs over wants. The Buddha encouraged a life of simplicity, reminding us that true contentment comes from needing less. Focus on essential expenses rather than extravagances. 4. Seek professional advice. Consult financial advisors or legal experts to manage your savings and assets wisely. This can prevent misunderstandings or exploitation within the family. 5. Give thoughtfully. Generosity is a virtue, but it must be balanced with self-care. Support your children and loved ones when needed, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Money, when managed wisely, is a source of empowerment. It allows older adults to make decisions freely, access quality health care, and live with dignity. Financial independence also reduces the burden on children, fostering healthier family dynamics. The Buddha viewed wealth as a tool for good teaching. A person should acquire wealth righteously, use it skillfully, and share it generously. In old age, this principle translates into using money to support one's health, sustain independence, and give back to the community. True wealth lies not in accumulation, but in how it is used to create a life of purpose and peace. The lesson from Mr. Han's story is clear. Financial independence is not just practical, it is spiritual. It reflects our ability to balance generosity with wisdom, to honor our needs while supporting others. In doing so, we ensure that our later years are not defined by dependence, but by the quiet strength of self-reliance. Peace is not the absence of challenges, but the presence of acceptance. The Buddha teaches that true contentment comes not from what we possess, but from what we release. As we journey into the later stages of life, the desire for peace often becomes paramount. Yet, the world around us is anything but peaceful. Family dynamics can be complicated, health may waver, and the weight of the past can linger. How then do we cultivate the tranquility that the heart yearns for? The answer lies in the teachings of the Buddha. Contentment is the greatest wealth. Take the story of Mrs. Hong, a widow in her 70s. Her home was a modest but beautiful space filled with memories of her late husband. Yet, despite the comfort of her surroundings, Mrs. Hong often felt a void. She spent hours dwelling on how her life might have been different if her husband had lived longer, if her children visited more often, if she had made different choices in her youth. These thoughts, like waves crashing on a shore, eroded her sense of peace. One day, a neighbor introduced her to a mindfulness group at a local temple. At first, Mrs. Hong was skeptical. How can sitting still and breathing solve anything? She wondered, but she gave it a chance. In her first session, the teacher spoke of santosha, the Sanskrit word for contentment, and guided the group in a simple meditation. Focus on the present moment, the teacher said, for it is the only place where peace resides. Over time, Mrs. Hong began to understand that peace was not something she could find outside herself. It was within her all along, waiting to be uncovered. By practicing gratitude for what she had, instead of longing for what was lost, she slowly replaced her sorrow with serenity. Practical practices for inner peace. 1. Mindfulness meditation. Begin each day with a few moments of stillness. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Let each inhale and exhale remind you of life's simplicity and beauty. 2. Gratitude journaling. Each evening, write down 3 things you are grateful for. These need not be grand, perhaps the warmth of the sun, a kind word from a neighbor, or a favorite meal. 3. Release regrets. Acknowledge past mistakes, but do not dwell on them. The Buddha teaches, do not carry your mistakes with you. Instead, place them under your feet and use them as stepping stones. 4. Simplify your surroundings. A cluttered space often leads to a cluttered mind. Keep your home and life simple, focusing on what truly brings you joy. The practice of contentment is a lifelong journey. It requires patience and effort, but the rewards are immeasurable. As Mrs. Hong discovered, the path to inner peace begins not with changing the world, but with changing our perspective. When we embrace the present moment, we find that it is enough. The purpose of life is not to achieve great things, but to live greatly in each moment. The Buddha reminds us that self-acceptance is the foundation of all growth. As the years pass, many people struggle with a sense of purposelessness. Retirement, the departure of children, or the loss of loved ones can leave a void. Yet, the later years of life are not an ending, they are a beginning. They offer a chance to redefine what it means to live fully. Let us consider the story of Mr. Minch, a retired craftsman. For decades, he built intricate wooden furniture, his hands shaping raw materials into objects of beauty. But after retiring, he felt lost. The days stretched long and empty, and he began questioning his worth. What use am I now? He often asked himself. One day, his granddaughter came to visit. She was working on a school project and needed help building a small model. Hesitant at first, Mr. Mine agreed to assist. As he worked alongside her, something awakened within him, the joy of creation. Soon, he began teaching woodworking classes at a community center. His students, ranging from children to adults, marveled at his skill and passion. In helping others, Mr. Mine found new purpose and a renewed sense of self-worth. This story illustrates a profound truth. Purpose is not tied to age or accomplishment. It is found in the small, meaningful acts of each day. Whether it is teaching, learning, or simply being present for a loved one, purpose gives life depth and direction. Finding purpose in later years. 1. Discover joy in service. Volunteering, mentoring, or sharing your skills can bring fulfillment. Purpose often lies in what we give, not in what we receive. 2. Nurture passions, revisit hobbies, or explore new interests. Whether it is painting, gardening, or writing, creative pursuits can reignite a sense of vitality. 3. Build connections, engage with your community, join a club, attend local events, or simply reach out to a friend or neighbor. Connection is the lifeblood of purpose. 4. Practice self-compassion. Accept yourself as you are, imperfections and all. The Buddha teaches, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. The Buddha often spoke of the middle way, a path of balance, neither clinging to extremes nor rejecting the world entirely. In old age, this teaching takes on new meaning. It is a time to balance the wisdom of experience with the openness to new possibilities, the courage to face the unknown with the peace of self-acceptance. Komot kao chuyen, vemot nguai mi, jia ke dua kong hien chu kong kaye, din kiu dua lai nanre wan, wan nguai mu don nu akche exuai, cheng ai dum lai du lao de hin vinan koai. By cultivating peace, discovering purpose, and embracing the present moment, we create a life of true fulfillment. Happiness in old age is not about how much we have or how much others do for us. It is about how deeply we connect with ourselves, how we find joy in small moments, and how we live with a heart that is light and free. May we all learn to walk this path with wisdom and grace, finding the inner peace that no external force can take away. And so, let the later years of life be not a fading sunset, but a bright dawn, a time of rediscovery, of purpose, and of profound inner peace.